Back when I started watching Formula 1 in the early 90s, the helmet of a driver didn't only protect their head, but it also reflected their personalities. Most had penned up their own design even before they had reached F1, or had friends or family make one for them. Usually they kept that same design for their whole career, which made them very identifiable. Since the helmets were much more visible back then, as cars didn't have a halo and much more open cockpits, you could say these were even more recognizable than the drivers' faces. I used to be a huge Schumacher fan back in those days, and I still remember when Michael announced his switch to Ferrari, I was really wondering how his helmet would look like in the famous Scarlet car. For some reason, I think the Marlboro branding always worked well on basically every helmet, and surely it also did for Michael's. When he then switched to the spectacularly shaped Bell Fueling SS model at the 1996 European Grand Prix, his helmet became even more of an instant classic in my eyes. At that year's Monaco Grand Prix, we were greeted by quite a unique sight. When David Coulthard, driver for the Marlboro Mclaren team at the time, had a problem with the visor of his RA helmets misting up during the rainy pre-race warm-up session, he needed to find a solution quickly. He turned to Schumacher, as Michael also had Marlboro as his main sponsor. The Ferrari driver kindly lent DC his spare helmet, which was Schumacher's early season one, so not a now famous Fueling SS model. McLaren and Coulthard then proceeded to tape off the Schumacher name, Michael's personal sponsor on the side, and of course the prancing horse on the back. They slapped on a McLaren visor strip, and like that it was good to go. This special helmet brought DC some good luck, as Coulthard finished second in a very chaotic race which only saw 3 cars finish. It was quite a sight to see a Schumacher helmet in a McLaren, one we would only see once more when Michael's younger brother Ralf tested the same car later that year. Actually, no, that's not entirely correct, as Mick Schumacher also did some tests for McLaren in 23 and 24, as he was the team's reserve driver through their joint Mercedes links. So now, okay, after that 96 Monaco Grand Prix, DC kept the helmet he used after getting Michael's permission to do so, of course. However, when McLaren team boss Ron Dennis caught wind of that, he ordered Coulthard to send the helmet to the team's home base in Woking. You have to understand that Ron Dennis was quite a controlling figure, and that the McLaren drivers had very strict contracts at the time. For instance, it was stated that the original trophies the drivers won would belong to the team, or the helmets and gear they used to if they were ordered to hand them over. Coulthard admitted years later he actually kept the original helmet. He had an exact replica made, which he then sent to Ron Dennis, making him believe that was the original. The real helmet David used on that day was kept on display for a while in the DC Museum in his home base in Twineholm, Scotland. The museum has now shut its doors, but the original ex-Schumacher helmet is now still in Coulthard's possession, being kept by David's parents. This half-scale mini version I have here is not an official release, of course, but a beautifully made custom creation. It used to be a Martin Brundle 1994 McLaren helmet, as it had the correct shape of Michael's spare 1996 helmet. I know it's a bit of a shame such a nice helmet was used as a donor, but sometimes you have to destroy nice things to create something better. I mean, sorry Martin, nothing against you, and you have a lovely helmet I think, but it can't match what it has become now. So the mini helmet was slightly modified. The vents on the top have been opened up, for instance, and those on the chin bar as well. Normally on a Bell M3 helmet there are 6 slits at the front, but on this helmet only the top ones were opened. This was a bit harder to notice because of the black backgrounds, and I also believe that McLaren and Coulthard taped up these vents for the race, but they are certainly cut on the real helmet. The paintwork then is simply stunning, and I love the pearlescent tone in these, let's say, white bands here. The blue top then is also beautifully replicated in this sort of waffle structure, and then these 7 white stars in it. The transition then of the German flag colors is also really well executed. And the Bell logo on the back with the little extra details like the R-6 referring to the 6th race of that year, so the Monaco Grand Prix, make it look even more authentic. The Marlboro lettering then and the Dayglow chevrons have been expertly replicated too. The Kenwood visor strip also looks great on this clear visor. And I also really love the tan colored interior. Now this was pretty common at the time though, but I think it just looks really cool and contrasts nicely with the dark eye port part. Maybe it's also the retro vibes it gives to the helmet, of course. To then really finish it off, I then added a few things myself. So on the visor I added these tension posts for the tear-offs. And these were not on the original mini helmet, so that needed to be added. And I don't believe that DC actually used tear-offs for that race, so no need for those then. I then also added an extra layer on the white taped off parts, so it wouldn't look too cleanly cut. On the real helmet, these pieces of tape weren't too cleanly cut either, and probably were quite hastily put over the logo, so I wanted to mimic that too on this mini version then. The eye port then needed this black mousse around it, as well as the front vents that were taped off too then. And also a little piece of taped off mousse was added to prop open the visor, and this was done on the real helmet too to give some better airflow to the visor and keep it from misting up, which ironically was DC's problem with his own Arai helmet in the first place. And on Schumacher's own Fueling SS version, they also added lots of tape on the front and on the eye ports too, as you can see here. Finally then, on the left side of the helmet, the com set was added too. And again here I tried to replicate the not too proper looking gaffer tape job they did on the real helmet. So yeah. So with all these mods on it, I think it looks even more fabulous. So normally I would also try and pair this helmet with the 118th model of that race. And there is in fact a model available of Coulthard's McLaren from the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix. However, that model is made by GP Replicas, and as is so often the case with that brand, the model is absolutely woeful. You can't even try and explain this one, it's really bad even for their low standards. I mean, it's either designed by a blind person or someone who thoroughly hates McLaren. And even if the model would have been acceptable, the figurine and the special helmet, the whole unique selling point of this model, is also truly awful. An old mini-champs version of the McLaren MP411 is sadly also not an option, even though that one is still kinda okay looking. It's modeled after the standard version, so the Monaco special midwing is not featured on it. But since it's actually all about the helmets, I'm very much satisfied with just this half-scale mini. So to conclude, I'd say I'm really happy to have added this mini helmet to the collection. It's quite a unique piece and it also tells a very cool story, I think. The painter has done a marvelous job on it. It really looks awesome, I can't look away from it. The finishing is just exquisite and the small touches like the extras in the Bell logo are really cool. The added details like the black tape and the eye port mousse and com set and everything make it look even better, I think, and really finish off this incredible mini helmet. I now just really hope to get it signed by DC one day and see his reaction to it. That would be pretty cool. So that was it for this review of the David Coulthard-Schumacher mini helmet from the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix. Thanks a lot for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, don't forget to subscribe too if you haven't already done so, and check out the other content on the channel as well, like this video on another Ferrari themed one, the Charles Leclerc Mugello helmet from 2020. Thanks, take care, and I'll see you again in the next one.